What's good? Let's go. Cyrus here, stuck in the middle. Thanks for joining. Sorry, I am late. I had an inefficient day. I'm not going to let it ruin the mood, the hype, the best feeling that I've ever had with any political movement is with what the Libertarian Party, and I'm going to purposely use, this is driven by the Mises Caucus. I don't even know how to pronounce it right. I heard Michael Heiss pronounce it like Mises. I don't know if is it Mises or Mises. I like Mises, the sound of Mises Caucus better, but that's almost not what the point. It's the Libertarian Party now. The Libertarian Party has been a joke my whole life. And I wouldn't want to redo anything in my life, but I'm just thinking about right now the power of what Comic Dave Smith, Michael Heiss, and Angela McCardle, and everybody. It's too many people to name. I can't, and I don't know everybody. I'm a noob. I am not an expert. How I got into this, I saw Comic Dave Smith on, I think it was his first appearance on Tim Pool. I had just got into Tim Pool. One of the funniest things is, think about like me being pretty much, I followed stuff, but I was really blue-pilled pretty much my whole life. Even though I kind of was an independent, I was an independent thinker. I just wasn't aware of what everything was happening. And I get into Tim Pool, and the first episode that I remember, I think I'd seen a few before this, but the first episode that I jump into, and I hadn't listened to Alex Jones in years, so it was almost like listening to Alex Jones for the first time, was when he was on with Alex Jones and Michael Malice. I had no idea who Michael Malice is. And it's just like a bucket of ice water of liberty just smacks you in the face. And you're like, what? This dude is crazy. And that's how it kind of all started from there. I forget if Dave Smith was before that episode or after, but then, we got the whole lockdowns and George Floyd and all this. There's no one that resonates more than those who really talk about liberty and know how to explain it. And now I'm walking in that door listening to Eric July every day, and many others. This is a celebration. These guys have been working hard to put together a team of people to do something that I don't know we've ever seen before. That's how big this is. And what it is de-wokeifying an organization. That's what they've done. No one does anything by themselves. It's always a team of somebody, whether it's a family or what. And they de-wokeified the Libertarian Party. That is no small feat. That is not to be underplayed. Thanks for anybody stopping in. Sorry, I started up late. What's up, Ray Studios? YouTube popped the video up. Wow, that's good. Thanks for joining. What they have accomplished in taking over the Libertarian Party was almost like a summer club of these old guys, and it was kind of like a pet project for them. Like they were just, I'm a libertarian, and they were really leftists and didn't care anything about liberty. And even though I didn't know what liberty was really before the pandemic, I didn't have a succinct way to explain it, even though I had a concept of it. I was always into the Constitution. Even though I didn't know, I knew what they were projecting to me wasn't the win. Before the Mises Caucus kind of did their takeover. And I can, one of the beauty of this, and I'm going to start playing clips here. One of the beauties of this takeover is now I can go to someone and unequivocally say, I support the Libertarian Party. I could not say that before. And I don't know all the rules and all this. There's different positions in the political party, no different than Republican, Democrat. It's the same thing, just on a smaller level. and they took it over with all people who are friendly to the idea of liberty that resonates with me. And it's people, these are people we can take seriously. Smart, good-hearted, down-to-earth people who are creating a culture that will last for years. Let me kick it off with this, and I'm going to get into, if you're not familiar with them, and I know I'm not going to get sidetracked today. This is just going to be a celebration of the Mises, the Libertarian Party and the transition that's happened and the future. So I'm not going to get sidetracked. I know Donald Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy. I don't have to deal with that tomorrow. But what I'm about, I align way more with, see, the thing is why I talk about MAGA a lot. I talk about the populist left, because there are certain things where my interests intersect. But when you look at where my interests intersect the most, it's actually with the Libertarian Party now. And I will become a member. I've never become a member of any party in my life. So I will be becoming a member of it. I don't know what the dues are or whatever, but they got me hyped.
The Mises Caucus and the Libertarian Party has a job on their hands to make sure that Libertarian Party represents the views of libertarianism. They stand up for these.
Libertarians are the inheritors of an exceptionally venerable tradition of ideas that is noble and beautiful. And that carries with it a grave responsibility. We must be true to that inheritance. Enough putting people to sleep already. It's time we finally woke them up.
The people know about it, they're awakening to this, they're listening to this message. It's up to us to do something about it.
People crave authenticity.
If you're going to get involved, this is serious, you better have some fun.
This caucus is 3 years old, and it is the force in the Libertarian Party today.
I sort of have to chuckle when they describe you and me as being dangerous.
I'm not going to let the people who apologize for our torturers tell me they're offended by my joke.
You have a right to do things that are very controversial.
You're not up there trying to crack silly jokes. You're up there sending a message.
This is who we are. We are the Ron Paul Army. That's who we are.
We are dangerous to the status quo of this country.
We are in the business of ending genocide. End the lockdowns, end the wars, and there is no force on this earth powerful enough
To stop an idea whose time has come.
We weren't here to fight with other libertarians. We're here for the revolution.
Freedom is popular, don't you know that?
I love that part. I've watched this a million times. I love that part when he's saying the same thing as Ron.
Would inspire all of those tens of thousands of young people to come out at every single event. Well, we're those people.
I love that part where he's saying the same line as Ron Paul, because it's not like he's copying Ron Paul. It just shows he's continuing it on. And this whole thing, for me, it has to start with Ron Paul. Even though I was blue-pilled, I always liked Ron Paul. And I think that the idea of liberty might be inside a lot of people like myself back in the day. And you don't know how to articulate it. Your thoughts aren't fully formed. You might be too young, or you're just not in the right space, or you don't really follow this stuff a lot, but you like the vibe and you like the message, even though you might not fully. I did not understand Ron Paul's message at all until probably recently, the last couple years. And I'm like, wow, I kind of like the guy, but I think I was just vibing off the energy. Ron Paul, if you don't know, he was a savage back in the day.
Equal approach to solving a social medical problem, and we endorse the idea of voluntarism and self-responsibility, family, friends, and churches to solve problems, rather than saying some monolithic government is going to make you take care of yourself and be a better person. It's a preposterous notion. It never worked. It never will. The government can't make you a better person.
Ron Paul was talking about this back in the day. It applies to damn near everything. You talk about the tragic shootings that are happening in urban areas all over the country. you talk about the shootings that are happening in schools, these active shooters, all this type of stuff. So many things. And so often people turn to the government for an answer. And we have to stop doing that. That's myself included. At some point, it's on us. And that's a mentality that has to be broken. And Ron Paul was talking about this back in the day.
Make you take care of yourself and be a better person. It's a preposterous notion. It never worked. It never will. The government can't make you a better person. It can't make you follow good habits. Why don't they put you on a diet? You're a little overweight, and I think you'd be in better health.
That triggered him. As soon as he went to the overweight card, that triggered him. Ron Paul was savage. So when you see the legacy of where the Mises Caucus kind of took over with Dave Smith and Robbie Bernstein and everybody, true, they are savage as well. And Michael Malice is, there's nobody more savage. I don't know if I've ever seen someone more savage and likable at the same time as all of them, at least for me. And this is kind of where it starts.
It never worked. It never will. The government can't make you a better person. It can't.
The government can't make you a better person. He basically called him a fat ass. He said the government can't make you a better person. And I think the big lesson from this is if that person wasn't trying to be the aggressor on Ron Paul, he wouldn't have said that. It wouldn't even be a topic. I was chatting with somebody online, and this is the importance of liberty. I was chatting with somebody online today, and with the LGBTQ month, and then there's a lot, it's a huge culture war. It's a civil war going on in our country, and there are people who are being insensitive, and that's just not my style. People being insensitive, though, to people who identify as LGBTQ. And somebody who is LGBTQ and would align on a lot of stuff, maybe on the channel here, just as a populist, kind of said, hey, why are you so insensitive, basically? Not to me, I didn't, it was somebody else in a thread. And this was about the kids going to the drag show. And so my idea is it's just, for me, it's you do what you do as long as you don't infringe on me. But you could argue that it is child endangerment or something like that. So I'm not against that take. But somebody was insensitive to me, the LGBTQ community. Somebody replied to them and said, why are you insensitive? And my take was, I replied to both of them, and I said something to the effect of, when the government attacks liberty, they're also attacking tolerance. That's what's happening with Ron DeSantis. When Ron DeSantis went savage on Disney, he went savage on the Tampa Bay Rays recently. When the government, and this is coming from the federal government, when the federal government attacks liberty and takes the Constitution and throws it aside, I'm not making any excuses for people who are intolerant or insensitive. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm telling you what the consequences are. There are consequences that we do not talk about very often to the government taking the Constitution, wrapping it up, balling it up, and playing trash basketball with it. There are societal consequences beyond the control of what the government can control. The government will not be able to control these consequences. That's how serious it is. And you attack that liberty, then you attack the tolerance that people have. And an example of that is bringing that kind of stuff to a public school. Unacceptable. Bringing that kind of stuff to taxpayer facilities, and everybody's not into it. If you keep public spaces and spaces where tax dollars go neutral, we will be okay. But once you start attacking that, then it's a war. You go tit for tat. And that's the importance for what Ron Paul talked about, what Comic Dave Smith talks about. If you don't know, Ron Paul was a doctor. was a practicing doctor, delivered babies. And he was right on so many things. One of those things being war as well.
Price of gold today is $1,580. The dollar during these last 3 years was devalued almost 50%.
So for this clip, he's talking about the switching from the gold standard. But I will finish this clip out here, and then play the clip about war, and then go to how it started with Ron Paul, kind of went to Rand Paul, and then to where we are today.
When you wake up in the morning, do you care about the price of gold?
Well, I pay attention to the price of gold, but I think it reflects a lot of things. It reflects global uncertainties. I think the reason people hold gold is as a protection against what we call tail risk, really, really bad outcomes. And to the extent that the last few years have made people more worried about the potential of a major crisis, then they have gold as a protection.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money.
Even
if it had been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money. I yield back. My time is up.
So the fundamentals, this is all the fundamentals for where we are currently. You can see them straight up through Ron Paul. It goes back before him, but let's start there.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if propping up repressive regimes in the Middle East endangers both the United States and Israel? What if occupying countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed toward us? What if someday it dawns on us that losing over 5,000 American military personnel in the Middle East since 9/11 is not a fair trade-off for the loss of nearly 3,000 American citizens, no matter how many Iraqi, Pakistani, and Afghan people are killed or displaced? What if we finally decide that torture, even if called enhanced interrogation technique, is self-destructive and produces no useful information, and that contracting it out to a third world nation is just as evil? What if it is finally realized that war and military spending is always destructive to the economy? What if all wartime spending is paid for through the deceitful and evil process of inflating and borrowing? What if we finally see that wartime conditions always undermine personal liberty? What if conservatives who preach small government wake up and realize that our interventionist foreign policy provides the greatest incentive to expand the government? What if conservatives understood once again that their only logical position is to reject military intervention and managing an empire throughout the world? What if the American people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests?
And I will transition this into the comment here that we got from Tamara. Your comment is right on point. So Tamara asks, thank you for stopping by, says, Ross Perot of the Independent Party in 92 didn't win a single state, but got the most votes of a third party. I'm all for anything other than what we have been using, but will it make a difference? And my take on this is, I like that Dave Smith is realistic. He's not trying to sell any delusions of grandeur. What he's trying to do is build building blocks. Hopefully I numbered my clips right. This clip, I think, will address some of your, at least from Dave Smith's standpoint, and I agree with him totally on this concern that Tamara has.
Left and right, and I think more people than we realize libertarian, they don't know what the fuck we are. So
The volume's low, but the question is, most people, the volume will go up here as soon as Dave starts speaking. But the guy's basically saying most people don't know who libertarians are. It's along the lines like Tamara's saying, like, I might like some of these ideas, but is it making a difference? Am I really throwing my vote away? I think that's kind of the lane it's something I think about all the time. And I've put my foot down, and I am not checking off anybody's name for any position that I don't believe in. Doesn't mean I won't make mistakes, but the day of this evil and that evil, those days for me are over. It has not gotten, I haven't seen any progress or any wins by doing that. Who you have Trump, you have Biden, you're taking the lesser of two evils. Nah, I need somebody I can get behind, period. And this is the time.
So let's say we get a solid candidate for this next election. How the fuck do we get media access? Because we get squeezed out constantly.
Well, the thing we have to do, right, the plan is that now, since we have the opportunity to where we can really make so much noise, the thing is this, right, you have CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times and all of the establishment media, okay? If you're saying that, if you're a libertarian and you want to abolish the CIA, they're not going to give you a fair shake. But a lot of these alternative media outlets who are way bigger than them, they may not be completely on board with the libertarian message, but they're not like, oh, I'm trying to ruin you if you want to abolish the CIA. They're like, huh, interesting point. And so they'll have us on. So what you have to do is get in front of as many people as you can and create such a movement that there's so much demand that these dinosaur institutions are like, shit, we do want those ratings. And then you can kind of create a demand from them. So the goal is just to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible and create as big a movement as possible. That's our best shot at doing something here. And to all of the people that there are camps of libertarians who don't even think it's important to create more libertarians or to spread this message and all of that stuff. And I just...
So Tamara, what I'm getting from him here is he's like, I'm playing the long game. I'm trying to lay the foundation for a culture that can create itself or continue itself long after I'm gone. So for me, I got two kids. Dave talks about it. I don't know if it's this clip, but I have a clip where he talks about his two kids. To me, it's about like generation and generation. To get where we got took generations to get here. To get out of it is going to take generations, in my opinion. There's no quick fix here. We're dealing with people who have all the advantage, control. They don't have the numbers, though. But if we're going to change things, it's going to take a while. And that's why the Founding Fathers said every 19 years, you should probably have to revisit the whole Constitution. Because that's about the time frame of a generation. Things change. So right now, what they're doing in the schools, it's not about sex. In my opinion, it's not. They don't care about sex. What they care about is the idea. It's a pathway. It's something that kids are glomming onto, and it's a pathway away from populism towards corporatism. They don't care how that gets done. They don't care if it's video games. They don't care if it's basketball. They don't care if it's LGBT. They don't care what it is. If it's Black Lives Matter. Notice all those things funnel to the same place. And Dave Smith, to me, is saying we can get in front of people. They are cool with, Dave Smith is cool with Joe Rogan. He's been on many times, been great. Tim Pool. Like, those are the real media. The corporate media is, who watches that now? So they can get eyes on all over the place. Michael Malice was on with Glenn Beck multiple times, talking about the Mises Caucus, white pill moment, talking about anarcho-capitalism with Glenn Beck on his show, platformed by Glenn Beck, because they've got interests that align. They can agree to disagree. and they can build. So this is possible. This is This is very, very possible.
Could not disagree with them more. You know who knows how important it is? The state. They know how important. There's a reason why they control education, control propaganda, because they know how important it is. Now, is everyone a libertarian and they just don't know it? No. People have authoritarian tendencies, but everybody in this room was once not a libertarian, and then they became one. And the vast majority of the American people have never heard this shit presented to them in the right way. So what could our numbers be? Enormously higher than what they are right now. There's no reason why, if we have maybe, let's say, we have like real libertarians in this country, let's say maybe there's 2 million libertarians in this country. There's no reason why it can't be 25 million. And if we had 25 million real libertarians in this country, we're living in a different country, a freer country. I guarantee it.
So you see what he's saying there? He's saying even if we don't win anything, we're going to try to win stuff, especially at the local level, but president obviously is a long shot, to say the least. We can still move the needle towards liberty.
Guaranteed, no question about it. And we can do that.
And I'll add to that. Dave's being modest. You don't realize how.
This is Michael Heiss speaking, who is the founder of the Mises Caucus. So he's a very important figure, probably you could say the most important, but they're also humble. I mean, they all play their role and kind of formed like Voltron.
Close we really are to the entire counterculture of the country. Dave doesn't just go on Rogan. He's good friends with Rogan. He's a colleague in comedy with Rogan. He doesn't just go on Gutfeld. He is supported by Gutfeld. Why is Megyn Kelly all of a sudden asking Dave Smith to come on? Why is Tim Pool saying that a former leftist saying that he would support Dave Smith if he run? Why is Dave Rubin on video saying that he would support Dave Smith? The fact of the matter is the media doesn't matter anymore. The only people who are really watching the media, for the most part, are people that we don't really have a shot with. They're already kind of stuck in their ways. They're older. It doesn't matter. We have to ride the wave of the new paradigm. And the new paradigm doesn't trust the media. They hate the media. So they want different voices. And Dave has access to the platforms that give legitimacy to these dissident voices. So we are this close to the entire counterculture of the country. You know, there was a picture recently of Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, and Elon Musk. You know, in front of one of those cyber trucks. You know who took the picture? Michael Malice, who has a Amazon bestseller on the history of anarchistic thought. We're in a different fucking world.
So that's it right there. Like that's basically it. That we have a real opportunity right now to capture the real counterculture in a moment when the counterculture is exploding and the major institutions are collapsing. And that's our fucking mission, and it starts tomorrow by electing Angela McArdle to be the chair of the Libertarian Party. Thank you guys so much.
So that's the end of a part of the problem he did live. I do have a few clips from this, but in the chat we're talking about military. So this is this is a legitimate take. There's some, a lot of people talk about different things. They talk about what about the police and all this different stuff. Ray Studios, friend of the show, Ray said that he's like, what about the military? He's like, I like a strong military. And here's my thought is we're not going to agree on everything all the time. So if that's the only thing that you disagree on, then I would say this is a very close fit for you. The comic Dave Smith, I don't want to misspeak, but many libertarians, they are for very small national military. And I think that's something that could be worked out. It's when libertarians are for these libertarians are for zero federal government and really zero government period, but it would have to start with the federal government. And in the process, if you were able to get that done, if you had enough political power to get that done, you would be able to work something out, in my opinion, with the military. The biggest challenge with the military is you would have to have, I don't know what you would call them, a national military, I don't know what you would call them, but you would have to have the group of territories, states, whatever, with the military. And the biggest issue is, would the military become too strong? That's the problem. What you do is you get rid of the federal government. If you still had, I think you have to have a military. There's no question. There's no doubt about that. You just get ran over. So if you get ran over by Canada. Canada is a globalist country right now. They're trying to make America that, but it's a lot harder because we're founded on a lot different than any other country. Canada is a globalist country. So if we went towards liberty, Canada and us wouldn't be the same. The relationship wouldn't be the same. So Canada would be a threat to us if we truly went to liberty. So we would have to have protection, and that's beyond 2A. And there's always going to be a give and take and a challenge here and there. But yeah, if you have a national military, the danger is that they become the government, especially if everything's decentralized. You would probably have to have decentralized groups of military. I don't know the full answers to that, but Ray Stu, that's a legitimate question. And I'm just now dabbling into reading. Michael Malice has the Anarchist Handbook, which is a collection of like really important libertarian essays, which is a great place to start, which I started with that. Anatomy of the State is great reading. Some of this stuff is tough to get through for me, so I kind of started a book and then stopped it. Anatomy of the State was just a simple, quick, easy, great read. So I'm new on like the details. I'm not well read yet. Really getting into Thomas Sowell a lot too, but I don't have the answers to that. If Dan was talking about that too in the chat. So if Dan or anybody else, and shout out to Dan. Dan was in Reno. He said it was dope. I wish I could go, but I think I will eventually schedule to go out to feel the energy. And Michael Heiss talked about community. So they are structured, they're smart, but they also know the importance of culture.
We have limited resources, we have limited time. So it's incumbent upon us to best use our resources and best use our time. It's a waste of time worrying about people who that at best exist to make us laugh. Okay, well, not comedians. I mean, like loser motherfuckers.
Yeah,
that
did hit home a little bit there.
Shots fired.
But
but stick around for the Late Show.
As for like what's the long-term plan? Well, we keep harping on this idea that it's got to be a cultural movement before it could ever be a political movement. Well, where does culture actually organically really come from? It comes from the family up through the community. So if we are serious about ingratiating ourselves to the culture, that's where we have to operate, is up in the community. That's where it will actually come from. So if we start creating change in the community at the local level, then we can start to scale and we can start to build trust, because trust is the actual currency that holds society together. It's in a lack of trust environment where we're divided by politics that we start to artificially hate each other. And that's what's happening, and that's the whole plan, is to not rely on ourselves, to rely on others, to rely on strong men to destroy our enemies for us. So what we have to do is create our own culture, and that starts at the local level.
And they might, hopefully nobody gets upset at this comparison, because I don't mean it as far as ideology. There's some overlap, but I compare Michael Heiss to the Steve Bannon of MAGA. I mean, really, to me, if I'm going to give somebody credit for MAGA, it's going to start for me with Steve Bannon. He had the vision, he had the understanding, he was making the chess pieces move, and that's the vibe I get from Michael Heiss. He's one of the brains behind that whole thing. They picked somebody good for chair. I've been following her for it's been a year plus since I first heard her name, and she's impressive. So these are not just some babbling idiots here. This is important. So Tamara asked about, and Tamara said she voted for Ross Perot, and it's like, well, what am I going to go with these? Are these people serious? They are planners. They're strategic. They know how to reach people. They know how to market themselves, and they are the cultural shock to the system that's going to kind of wake things up. Just like Donald Trump had to be a cultural shock. You couldn't have the MAGA revolution that's kind of underway with a Jeb Bush personality or my personality. You have to have somebody like even Ron Paul, like I said, was savage. Comic Dave Smith, Eric July. These people who are not afraid to stay principled, and it's a very thin line between crossing the line. Michael Malice. What a thin line between crossing the line and making people upset, or also shocking them into waking up out of the system. You can't do that with a milquetoast candidate. That's why they talked about Joe Jurgensen, and they respectfully said it's time for those type of people to go to the sideline. You can help us, but you can't lead this thing. That's why they had to do this takeover. It was very important. It's very similar to Twitter with Elon Musk. The Mises Caucus could have started their own party. But why? That's not really politics. How are you going to change the country if you can't change the Libertarian Party? So they proved that they could do that. That's a hell of a thing for everyone involved to have on their resume. And I don't mean it as like a show off to their resume. It's like a skill set. They got credibility with me. They got huge credibility with me to take the Libertarian Party over from people who have money. They had the power of the party. And how did they do it? They got the energy from the people, and they couldn't stop the energy. That's exactly what we need in our country. So who am I going to go to? Like, I liked Andrew Yang, for example. Yang Gang. I used to have my math hat. I don't even know where my math hat is now. Wow, that's kind of representative to it kind of, it's not going on right now. But Make America Think Harder, Andrew Yang. And I liked it. But he never showed the power to be able to, he got people hyped, but he never really showed the power to take anything over. It's not easy. That's not a knock on him. That's what I mean. What they did was not easy. And, there was some tensions. So not only was it not easy, there were some serious backlash, serious kind of infighting. They had to take it over, and whenever there's a transition like that, where you have to transition power, no different than when Hillary Clinton saw Trump come in. No matter what you care about either one of them, Trump was coming in, taking some power from these establishment politicians, and you saw how Hillary acted with the fake Russia stuff and all that. And they dealt with a similar type of stuff on a smaller level. So Angela McArdle is kind of like, I would say, like the organizer behind it. And the Libertarian Party didn't have that before her that I saw.
At the Florida convention, at the Florida Libertarian Party convention, there was a chair debate. And I got up there and started saying, I got a 40-page strategic plan summary. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to rework this. We're not going to go too aggressive with reworking everything because the odds of that failing and succeeding, it's very complex. And these are the studies about boardrooms and when they come in with rapid change and so on and so forth. And my political opponent turns to me and says, oh, we don't need a plan. Planning is bad. Do you guys understand? They're so pearl clutching and terrified that we're going to have edgelording on social media and that we have no planning. They hate plans. This is why the party has failed for 50 years. Just forget. It's a joke. Everything that they say that we're not planning, we're not professional, it's a joke. I've run mid-sized law firms. Like, I have to deal with like multi-million-dollar verdicts and people's lives are at stake. And they're like, you don't know what you're doing. Sit down and shut up. Like, just chill out. We're fine. We're fine. We're the winner brigade. We're going to do an excellent job.
I like how she ended that one nicely. But that's what you want. You want someone who can be respectful. They all have that similar, they have different skill sets, but they all have that similar temperament. Don't F with me. I will F you up. This is about freedom and liberty. That's what, and I played that clip a while back where Comic Dave Smith was even like, I don't care about the Libertarian Party. That's not what the Libertarian Party is just a vessel. That's not what I care about. That's why we had to get these people out of here, is because they cared about this vessel more than the substance in it. If they had cared about the substance in it, they would have aligned with us or talked with us and not called us all these leftist type of terms. You would hear from a libertarian. Like when Joe Jurgensen made that tweet, I was like, this party is a clown. I didn't really talk about it too much because I didn't want to diss anything with that label of liberty. Like, I would rather diss Nancy Pelosi than this label. But when Joe Jurgensen, and she said it was a staffer or whatever, but she did a tweet like it's not good enough to be not racist. You've got to be anti-racist. Are you kidding me? That is the definition of authoritarianism. That you are trying to exert your authority on somebody with that statement. There is no other way. There's no other reason to make a statement like that. It is the antithesis of liberty. It really pissed me off. But I knew there's people like Larry Sharpe. Larry Sharpe he's like the Andrew Yang of the Libertarian Party. Like, just ideas. He's like Andrew Yang mixed with is it Louis Rossman, the guy who fixes stuff? To me, he reminds me of those two mixed together as a libertarian. He's unbelievable. His ideas are just incredible. Running for governor in New York, I believe, needs signatures. So if you're in New York and you're into liberty, go holler at Larry Sharpe. He's been on Tim Pool, Joe Rogan. He's great. He was on with Patrick David on the podcast. They actually had them on after they had Joe Jurgensen on. They had Spike Cohen. I forget the woman's name. Somebody in the chat might. And then Dave Smith and Larry Sharpe. It was a great episode. Daniel in the chat said that he met Larry Sharpe at the state convention. Props. Yeah, he's great. From what I've listened to him, he's very, he sells the idea of liberty. I should have got some clips from him, but I was already running late. Didn't even have all my clips. You could do a ton of clips just on him. I'll probably just do a different show just on him. His ideas are amazing. But he sells the idea of liberty without telling people he's a libertarian. And everybody doesn't have to do that. And I don't think everyone should do that. But I think that's a powerful skill. How do you wake people up? The idea of liberty is a scary idea. It is frightening. That means you have to make the decisions. So a pandemic comes over the country, and if you are for liberty, you get the information from people and you make the decision. The scary thing for most people is they don't want to make the decision. They want to be told what to do. That's how we got to this point. And part of the struggle is to let people know that you are actually going to be more empowered. You are going to be safer if you value liberty. And you won't be told what to do, but you'll get good recommendations. There won't be censorship and all this other stuff. And the approach that Larry Sharpe has is very important to that movement, along with everybody else's. In the chat, let's see here. Alan Mofo says, Alano Mofo says, I'm a New Yorker and Larry Sharpe is great. Is that great? Okay. People do these other words and stuff. No, it's great. He goes to every town and meets the people. Yeah, he's on the ground. He has to be to get votes to get signatures and stuff like that. So he's a great marketer too. So he's out there. Everybody plays a different role. You can tell he loves New York when you hear him talking about New York. It's a matter of battle for awareness. He's very smart. He knows how to, the politics works. Libertarians have the ideas. They just got to get them out there. So I think Comic Dave Smith is going to come on, Tim Pool. I mean, that's not everything, but they will be doing media runs. He has not officially announced that he's going to run for president in 2024. He said that if nobody else, in a humble way, he said, I will do it if no one else, comes with the ideas and a better proposal. So it's not like this group is taking over the Libertarian Party and trying to go to some power-hungry grab. If somebody is in a better position, at least if Comic Dave Smith thinks it, to run for president, he would support him. I fully believe that. Daniel W. says, Larry is always trying to think of ways to apply the ideas of liberty. Not all of them will work, but I like the outside-the-box thinking. Yeah. You have to fail to find out what works, and we know what's going on right now. It's failing. It's failing big time. So I am 100% open to it. But here's some of the tension, and there's going to be some language here. If I hope you're not with any young kids right now at this time of night, but just in case, there will be some language here. This is the kind of represented the battle that they had to go through to take things over. And this is part of the reason why I give them a lot of credit.
And all I heard is, we need to bring new members in. We need to be inclusive. We need to grow this. For 7 years, the same people that were at that convention, that's all they talked about. And here we were with 140 new members that were told over and over again for 6 months, don't worry, we always waive the 180-day rule. We always waive the 180-day rule. Please show up. These are people that were candidates for office. They were elected libertarians. They were newly formed county chairs. These are people that
So what's happening here is the Mises Caucus brought a lot of energy and new people to the party. And they were at, I forget where this was at. Is this in, it's Pennsylvania, I think it was? Yeah, so it was a state convention in Pennsylvania, I believe. Yeah, Williamsport. And the people that were pro-Mises, many of them were not allowed to participate. And they kind of changed the rules or whatever. So that's the tension that happened here, because the people in power obviously knew, hey, if we let them participate, we won't be in power anymore. And that's a frightening thing for someone who's had power, and this is like their social thing. They don't really care about liberty, but they care about the social aspect. I get to control something. I'm doing something. And then all of a sudden, you have this group of younger people coming in, and they are trying to wreck shop.
6 months, the state party was bragging about their accomplishments and begging them to show up at the convention, insisting that they would be voting members. And then the day came, and the establishment party saw that if we allowed these members to vote, we're going to lose control. We will not be the ones running the party.
I'm pretty disappointed. It was kind of expected. The 180-day rule, I was kind of half and half on whether that would really happen or not.
So the rule itself is it's not your registration, it's your dues paid membership. You have to be a dues paying member for 180 days before you can vote in the convention, or you can become a delegate or anything like that. And normally...
Thanks. Just a note in the chat, Dan cleared this up. He said, no, Williamsport was 2022. This one was in 2021. So Williamsport is when the Mises Caucus came back with the numbers and won the party. So I wanted to show this because this is part of the struggle, and to show this is why part of the reason why they have credibility with me. They were able to fight through this, and you're going to hear some yelling here in a second, and that yelling's going to be from the establishment trying to fight back to keep power away from Michael Heiss and the Mises Caucus.
Mississippi, Illinois, Michigan, New York, every hater in the country is here because I'm telling you, this is the Alamo. If we win here today, it's over for national, and they know it.
Because of a certain faction that has publicly stated takeover, takeover, takeover. And the people who have been in this party for a long time do not wish to just hand it over to those people that want to come and take over. There are more registered for this convention that are less than 180 days. That means they haven't even been to a meeting with the state board, let alone have any stake in this party. I do not get any people under 180 days. Let me speak. Shut the hell up.
Hey, bro, please keep it civil.
I will keep it civil, and if our friends in the back keep it civil. Nope. Well, then, fuck you! Fuck you! Good God.
He's a party member who wants to vote, and you're trying to deny individuals that are Pennsylvania residents to vote. Order!
So I just wanted to show, that's enough of that. I just wanted to show the tension. And my takeaway from that is that's another reason people might be afraid of liberty, is because you have to fight for it. It is not something that is just given to you. Look at homeschooling, for example. You might have to make sacrifices to make that happen. What maybe one of the parents might not be able to work full time, might have to live in a smaller house, or you have to make sacrifices, life sacrifices for the liberty and control to raise your children how you want to. That's a huge sacrifice. Liberty is not easy. And that's just the, life is way harder than that beef that I showed there. But what I'm saying is you can't have liberty without tension. It's impossible. And it's something that I've learned because I'm more of a pacifist. Always want to be like, let's work it out, that type of stuff. And I think there's a way that can be a strength at times, and that can be a weakness. Sometimes it's a time to put your foot down and say, no, and that's where I am on certain topics, something like 2A. No, it's time to put your foot down. This is not, I'm not even entertaining arguments for legislation. Tim Pool has the right approach. He's like, give everybody a gun. The reason he doesn't really believe that, why he's saying that is, I'm not going to allow you to push me to a position behind, lower than 2A. So if I start crazier than 2A, then you might push me back to 2A, but that's it. That's just a small example. I think the homeschooling one's a better example. What sacrifices are you willing to make for freedom? Now, I don't think you have to convince everybody of that. So if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you can convince people that we would be better off if the state didn't control it, or you have better options, then you got people on your side, just as an example. But so I see this. It's that pink-haired chicken got hated on for supporting Dave, and the woke people in the party didn't like the Mises guys getting too much pull in the party. Yes. That's my understanding, just following it from afar. I learned a lot of it from listening to Michael Malice talks about it, or used to, and hasn't talked about this stuff that much recently. But when he talked with Dave Smith, they would talk about this stuff too. And Michael Malice brought up some of this tension with Tim Pool one day too. So I kind of saw what was happening. I'm like, wow, I'm wondering if these guys can pull it off. Well, thanks for joining. Let me leave with this. I'm hoping the audio's good on this. This is from the I don't even know what it's convention, or this was in Reno. This was part of the speech from comic Dave Smith. And I think the passion that he has the ability to passionately and eloquently explain these topics in a way that resonates, that doesn't go over people's heads. It's a hell of a skill to have. And I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to kind of start it where Dave gets on. And this was a heck of a moment. I'm going to get it right here, and I'm going to hang out in the chat, play a little bit of this here clip, and then I'll be out. So thanks a lot for stopping by. This is a great moment. This is White Pill, and I'm not selling anything like, that's out of line or bad expectations. No, this is the groundwork for something that could last for a long time. Michael Heiss said, and I couldn't find the clip. I've listened to so many of their Zooms and all this stuff, but he said that what he didn't like was the Ron Paul movement had that energy, and then Rand Paul did his best. Man, it's hard to run for president and get energy and all that. Everybody can't do that, even though Rand Paul has his strengths. So the energy kind of went away after Ron. And Michael Heiss was like, I want to do something where that energy stays. So they captured the energy, and they're capturing it yet. So they still have to prove it, but they're capturing it. They're proving it along the way. They have the same energy as the Ron Paul, and then they're keeping it to make it something that can sustain itself. And this is Dave Smith here in Reno, and he was introduced by Tom Woods. Let me know what you think.
#1 on iTunes. Imagine if he released another one now that everybody knows who the hell he is. Imagine how that would be. Ladies and gentlemen, I could not possibly be more delighted to introduce to you my good friend, Dave Smith.
What an incredible weekend. Look, how else can you say it than what we're doing this weekend? It's this simple. The Ron Paul revolution is back. Back, and it's in the Libertarian Party this time. And it's pretty incredible for me to hear Tom Wood say these nice things about me. Tom has been a hero of mine for years, and every time he says this, I'm going to still say I think Tom Woods is the best communicator we have. So all of that credit goes back to Tom. Look, I've been having an incredible time this week. I'm losing my voice a little bit because I've been talking to so many of you. So by tomorrow, it will certainly be gone. But it's been amazing going around the country to all the state LP conventions and coming out here. So I just want to say first, a huge thank you to the best person that I know, who is my wife, who is at home with our 2 little kids, so I can come out and do all this stuff. So really all the credit goes to her. You guys doing a video, if you could clip that and email it to her, that would really win me some points when I go back home. That would be very nice. All right, so let me talk quickly about what it is that we're doing here, okay, and why I think this is so important. So, what's going on in the country? What are the problems that we're facing? And as you guys in this room know, it's a lot more than the craziness that's been going on over the last 2 years. It's really like the craziness that's been going on over the last 120 years that we're dealing with, okay? That's culminated in the craziness of the last 2 years. So what's the big problem in America? Well, let's think about it. Okay, #1, progressives. Okay? The main problem here is progressives, starting with the original progressive era, which gave us the income tax and the Federal Reserve and the military-industrial complex, starting with the First World War, the FBI, the 3-letter agencies, and the New Deal. They gave us the warfare state and the welfare state and the central bank. But it's not completely hopeless, because to fight the progressives, we have the conservatives. And the conservatives only have one little problem. which is that they're a bunch of progressives. So, if you can get past that, they're pretty good. So the conservatives in America all endorse the central bank and the warfare state and the welfare state and everything that was wrong with the original progressive era. Conservatives, at their best, are fighting for what progressives believed in 7 years ago. That's when they're at their absolute best. Conservatives are saying like, hey, let's go back to Barack Obama. They're like progressives, let's say, I just came up with this, driving the speed limit, okay?
For those who don't know, that's a famous Michael Malice quote. That's why he's joking like I came up with it. Everybody knows it's a Michael Malice quote.
Right off the top of my head. But this is always, without a doubt, it fails. Ask anyone in the conservative movement today about Obamacare, and they'll start talking to you about how we have to, cover pre-existing conditions. Like they can't even go back beyond just the most recent, and this is why they lose every single battle. What are conservatives doing even when they're fighting kind of the right battle? Like so we have the indoctrination in public schools, like the latest iteration of it, which I will admit is particularly troubling. But conservatives will stand up and they will say, no, sexual propagandizing of my child until the 4th grade. We're taking a stand here, all right? But why is it that they can never actually win? Because look at from the other flip side, what are they conceding? They're conceding that you can do it from 4th grade through 12th grade, and then through the universities as well. So conservatives never win because they're never attacking the root of the problem. What we stand for is attacking the root of the problem. We stand for repealing the entire progressive era. That's what our movement is about.
So we're in the chat talking and chatting here, and Jimmy Dore's brought up, and others, and this is where they would have some tension. So there are going to be things like anti-war, populist. I don't care if you're MAGA or populist on the left. Populists should be anti-war. Populists should be 2A. I know they're struggling with that on the left right now, but populists should be 2A absolutists. Even Jimmy Dore hear him talking about, well, we can ban this and ban that. Nah, bro. Even though I love Jimmy, don't get me wrong. But my point is when Dave says this, repealing or rolling back the heart of the progressive era, Jimmy wouldn't agree with that. So there's going to be some grouping, but that's why you kind of see why people try to label them right wing or something like that, because that will align much closer with Marjorie Taylor Greene than it would with Jimmy Dore. So just bringing that up, these are waters to navigate. But if you wonder why, well, they're libertarians, why are they kind of it's kind of why I talk about the populist right more too, but that's why you might see that. There's a conservative, not politically, just like a personality, an approach to life, a conservative approach that libertarians share more in common with, I think, because when you say I want to repeal the government, the populist left they don't like that. They go to, even the real populist left, they go to the government to handle everything.
Every inch of it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know Jimmy had Dave on his show. Oh, I will look that up in a heartbeat. Because, sometimes if I'm doing dishes or something like that, and I have listened to all my Eric July's or whatever and Bannon, I will search for stuff. I will have to search for that one, Jimmy and Dave Smith. I would love to see those two team up even more. I did not know that. Thanks.
Now, we have an incredible opportunity in front of us right now. Something we've never had before. We have, of course, this weekend, what we're doing, and this is just the truth of the matter, right? I don't think anyone could really argue it at this point after today. If everybody who showed up today shows up tomorrow, and I know you're all going to, if we all come in tomorrow, then it is a fact that Ron Paul libertarians have completely taken over the Libertarian Party. What does that mean exactly? Well, there are essentially two big, powerful parties in America.
So before Dave goes into, sorry, I keep interrupting him, but this is a good part to stop. Thank you for the comment, Daniel W. So I want to, if you're still hanging around here, I want to figure this out because I'm learning about this. Do you think it's incorrect to say that I think that, you see Michael Malice on with Glenn Beck? There's no, who on the populist left would have, I tried to get Nico House. I don't know if you listen to Nico House and Fiorella and Pasta, Kim Iverson maybe. I would like to see, I don't see the pairing of that. Like Kim Iverson was on with Tim Pool. I don't see the pairing of like a Kim Iverson, for example. You said Jimmy Dore had Dave Smith on, but it seems like that it's more with the right than the left. Is more kind of intersection of agreement. Is it fair to say that, so Dan, let me get the video out for a second so I can show the comment. Dan says the libertarians are for liberty, non-aggression, and property rights. Absolutely. All of our policies come out of that. We on a grab back. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a grab, but it seems like there's more alignment there with like Glenn. What is Glenn Beck really? I hate labeling people that, but this is something that you have to kind of overcome. They had to overcome this. That's why when they started rising up, they tried to stigmatize them as right-wing nut jobs. So it's something like you have to overcome. So if you're going to win people, you're going to talk about liberty, and they're going to see you. They call Tim Pool, and we know Tim Pool's a lefty. They call him a right-wing dude. So I don't know if maybe it doesn't mean anything, but it seems like there is more alignment. And I see that in myself too. And I really like the populist left. But if you're looking at no government, it's hard to find a connection with the populist left. The populist right will say, I want limited government. So you at least have some kind of alignment there, because to me, you've got to get limited government. If it's going to happen peacefully, you've got to get limited government before you get no government. But yeah, let me know what you think on that. I'll continue with the video here.
And then there is a third option, which bears the name libertarian. And for a very long time, many libertarians have not been happy with how this party represented our views, to the point that the majority of libertarians aren't even members of the party, because they would rather try to fight for liberty in some other venue. And honestly, with what the party's been for years, who can blame them? But that's all changing now. And one of the things that really gives us this opportunity, right, and it's something that's kind of, it's tragic in a way, but it's maybe just something about the nature of man, but when things are at their worst, we kind of have our best opportunity. There's a reason, there's several reasons, but one of the reasons why Dr. Paul's message resonated so much in 2008 was because the wars were a disaster. I don't know if people remember how bloody the war in Iraq was in 2005, 2006. It was really 2004, 2005, 2006. So the war was such a disaster. And then the economy crashed. And Dr. Paul was the one who was speaking about those issues and explaining to the American people what caused them. And then also he had a record of having been consistent on these issues over a span of decades. So he had real credibility to do that. Well, right now, we're in another situation like that, where you have these two major issues, which is the COVID regime of the last 2 years has been proven to have been wrong about everything. It's at this point, it's basically settled science that the lockdowns did nothing to mitigate the virus. And that, in fact, all they did was destroy the lives of tens of millions of Americans. And the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates and all of it, they did nothing. All they did was ruin people's lives. And so now we have that going for us. We're not clapping that people's lives have been ruined, but it's just that that does lead to an opportunity for the people who have been consistent about this. And while we were critical of the people in the Libertarian Party who weren't speaking out about this, all of the good libertarian leaders, including, of course, first and foremost, Dr. Ron Paul, was great on COVID from day one. From day one, he was so good. Watching the Liberty Report with Daniel McAdams and Ron Paul, from the first week of COVID, they were completely right about everything. Of course, Tom Woods was the greatest champion of challenging the lockdowns and taking on all of the arguments. Eric July and Maj Touré and all of...
And another path for libertarians, I think, is MAGA showed that you can take over. I mean, MAGA hasn't taken over the Republican Party, but they've really made some shattering moves within the Republican Party. So shocking that all this stuff that, in my opinion, is happening is against that uprising. So why can't libertarians get this momentum, keep it going? Why can't they take over a party? I think it would be Republicans. Maybe it would be coming through the MAGA door. I mean, that's looking down the road. But that's you could set something up where you have a libertarian. Like I said, Larry Sharpe is a libertarian, but he doesn't advertise himself as a libertarian. So he could run as MAGA. He could run as whatever he wanted to and really be a libertarian, and people could eat it up and they don't even know what they're eating up. That could be something that happens, who knows, down the road.
Our leaders were great on this from the very beginning. And so now we have credibility on that. Now, the other major crisis that's really facing the country right now is inflation. And everybody is feeling it now. And basically, no one ever talks about inflation until it gets to this level, except us. We talk about it all the time. And also, we happen to have the advantage of being the only people who even know what it is. And by the way, I don't say this to be like, I'm not looking down at regular people who don't know what inflation is. There's lots of things that I don't know. I am a professional stand-up comedian. I don't really know what...
He's talking about the Austrian economics that I talk about a lot. And I didn't even know what it was called. I'm not an economics expert, but I always grew up with some of the fundamentals that they talk about here. That was my understanding. For example, the inflation is based on the money that you put in in circulation, not based on prices. And that's a big standard one to look at. And that's what he's getting at here. A lot of people don't even understand what inflation is, and even if you define it based on pricing, you've got to understand where the weaknesses are of that approach.
The microphone is. I don't know what's inside of it. Someone else does. Before, we were getting a lot of feedback on the microphone, and someone went to me, they go, "Do you think the gain's too high?" And I was like, I don't know what gain.
Sorry, I keep interrupting it. He's just going to tell a joke about gains just to be more relatable. But Tamara said, so without government, is the burning and looting of our communities something we ignore? I don't see any law now, so maybe it wouldn't make a difference. This is the answer to this is that there would always be police. They just wouldn't be reporting to the state. In the ideal from my understanding, anarcho-capitalism would be, say you live in a neighborhood. I live in a little neighborhood with, I don't know how many people around here, 100 people or something like that. We would all pool together and we would have our own police force. So it would be a little bit different. I did a video on the channel a while back about this Citizen app, where it's an app where you literally pay something per month and they have people who will come if you're in danger or something like that. And it would be like that. So there would still be police, but they would report to you. And there would definitely still be classism. Because if you can't afford a private security, then you would be with the flunky security, or you wouldn't have any. So it is savage in that way, but capitalism is savage, and there's no reason why people kind of don't understand. You can be, like, I think Vosh calls himself a libertarian socialist, or I forget the order, but socialist, libertarian, or whatever. You can actually, in my opinion, have both. Just in your little community, you can have a commune, or you can be a socialist. You just wouldn't be that everywhere. I wouldn't be forced to be into your socialism. So there would be problems with class. You can't solve all of that, but you would have security. Not much would change there. It's just a matter of who does the security report to. That's the big thing. You still have a court system. The legal system would be even stronger, probably. So I have to think that out, read people have already thought this stuff through, so I'm no expert, but I think the legal system would be a lot stronger in that case, because if you make a contract with someone, there's going to be a ton of contracts under that scenario made, you and this private security force. What happens if they don't provide the services you were promised? Where are you going to go? You're going to have a lot of stuff through the judicial system under that. But if maybe other people can answer that even better. But hopefully that doesn't scare you. Like, you're not going to be in any danger. You could probably be safer, is what Michael Malice would say, because the people that, if you call the police, they report to the government. They don't report to you. So imagine if you're in a community of however many people and you cloud source private security. When they come to protect you, they work for you. Indirectly, they work for you and everybody else, but they would report to you. So think about that. That's a little different than a police coming to your house. They report to the government. So I would feel more safer with the private security. And that's what's happening already in Chicago. They're already going to private security because they've defunded the police. The good cops are gone. I did a video on that on the channel. And the people who can afford it, they're getting private security. And as we know, all these people who want to ban guns, there are exceptions in all this legislation for private security. And the people in power, rich people, are not giving up their guns. Let me know what you think about that if you're still around. Hopefully that answers that. It really wouldn't be that much different. People talk about the roads. That's a common one. It'd just be private. It'd just be privatized. It wouldn't be much different. My wife was asking me about the roads. I was like, it's not really a big deal. Tamara is making a good point about anarcho-tyranny, though, like how we see cops letting people riot, but with property theft doing nothing. Yeah, that's kind of where we are now. In certain cities, it's not full blown, but like in San Francisco, they changed the law to make it a misdemeanor to steal up to $950 worth of stuff, and that has big societal consequences. And they do it under the guise of equity, mostly racial equity. But that kind of stuff wouldn't happen. But you saw that in San Francisco, some of the stores were hiring their own private security. So I got security that works for me. So you come running up in my store, somebody's going to get. So this is not like flashlight cops. Like, this is security. They'll take care of the business. The police are like, well, I'm not doing anything, because the police don't work for your store. And they're like, well, it's a misdemeanor. What am I going to do? It's a waste of time. But yeah, it's a good discussion, and I like these questions because it makes you think through what am I really fighting for. But we're a long way, obviously, before we would get to that point. It would gradually it's already kind of gradually transitioning. Michael Malice would say it's a white pill that people in Chicago are hiring private security. Stores in Portland, I believe, had to do that too.
I have no idea.
I'm just saying there's lots of things that I don't know too. But regular people don't know about this the way we do. See, most people think that inflation means prices of things are going up. But that's not what inflation is. Inflation is the creation of money. It's more money and credit in the system. More money chasing the same amount of goods. So we're the ones who actually understand what's causing this, and no one else is talking about it. It's the Federal Reserve and fiat currency. This is our opportunity.
That's a classic Ron Paul chant.
Dr. Paul, I did not mean to steal your chant up here. I promise these people have another End the Fed chant in them when you get up here. These people will chant it all night long if we want.
There's a lot of that, don't worry.
But this
A lot
is
of End the Fed chants.
the opportunity that we have right now. There are these crises that are facing the American people. Everybody is waking up to the reality that this system is spinning out of control. I remember back in, it was in the 2008 presidential debates, or maybe it was in the 2012 ones, I can't remember, I've seen all of them. But someone asked Dr. Paul about immigration, and they asked him at one point, they said, oh, well, would you support, building a wall? And Dr. Paul said, I don't know about that. And he said, that wall could be used to keep us in. And at the time, I think to a lot of people that seemed like, well, that's a little bit out there. I mean, the government telling you can't leave? Now, who after the last 2 years thinks that's such a crazy idea that the government might do that? So people are more open to this message now than ever before, and we also have the opportunity with the internet and huge podcasts and huge platforms to talk to more people than we've ever been able to before. This is a big opportunity, and now we also will have the third party that bears the name Libertarian saying the things exactly the way we think they should be said, giving the real, authentic Libertarian message, the Misesian, Rothbardian, Ron Paulian message that we all love so much. That's what
So I'm going to end. That's the part I wanted to pause it on. He's going to introduce Ron Paul later. But exciting stuff. Very similar to Elon Musk. I'm going to say that if you value this and you're interested in this, we've got to rally around. We've got to rally around it. They are really putting themselves out there at risk. We saw what happened when Donald Trump actually got some power. When you see this momentum, I guarantee you there are people at the highest levels with their eyes on this. And we have to make sure that they know we outnumber them peacefully. What I'm saying is people who believe in this and are excited about this, we outnumber you all who are concerned about it. So there's no easy way to put it out. You want to keep the momentum going, keep it burning if you can afford to. I'm going to look to, I don't even know how much it is to become a member. Never in my life would I ever have thought I would become a member of a political party. But that will happen. I'll keep an update on the process there to go through and see what that really means. But whatever it is, me talking about it, I'll do that. Whatever I can do to help. I actually was on with Robbie the Fire Bernstein. He was nice enough to have me on talking about ESGs. But just good people from my interactions and following them. And look at that, just in the chat, talking with good people right now. That's what it's all about. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I'll be out. Have a good night, and probably holla at you tomorrow. Take care.